Welcome to the Corner Perspective. Hi, I'm Bruce Spangler, CEO of the Volunteer Ministry Center, located on the corner of East 5th and North Broadway. The Volunteer Ministry Center is dedicated to ending and preventing homelessness. In talking about ending and preventing homelessness today, I am joined by Megan Lappas and Dyrl Higdon, who are two of our more senior street outreach workers, or social workers, I should say. But also you're the two most senior staff members of VMC. Did you know that?
No.
Yes. Between 19 years and 17 years. If my math is correct, that's about 4 decades of experience.
Close.
And I know that you have a wealth of information, and that's the reason I'm privileged to have this conversation with you to talk about what you do. So, street outreach. Megan, in a sentence or two, what would that be? What does that mean?
That means we are going out and meeting people where they are, literally and figuratively. Mm-hmm. So we go to camps, hidden places that we've heard about or they've told us about, and just right on the street to start building a relationship and trying to gain trust so that then they'll be more likely to be open to coming into services at VMC.
So there'd be campsites, public parks, those kinds of places, right?
Yep.
Wow. So how do you hear about them? How do you know that they're there?
Well, sometimes it's where there might be complaints that come in from the city, and that they will let us know where the camps are so that we can go. Down the street on Broadway, that's very visible.
Sure.
Or sometimes the folks, especially now that they trust us, will tell us where their camps are when historically they would not years ago.
Mm-hmm. So Dyrl, you work hand in hand with Megan, right? You work as a team.
Daily.
Daily. So you go out as a team, right?
We do.
What's the value of that? Why is that important?
Well, number one, we want to have a safety factor.
Sure.
So going out as a team is good, but there are so many people that have such a need. One person would be bombarded, and even though as a couple we would feel bombarded at times, it's kind of nice, and it also gives, like if people want to talk to a certain person sometimes, they may think Megan has spent a little more time with them, so I can be handing out snacks or talking to another person, and Megan can be speaking to that person that's been waiting to see if she comes around that day.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What's the biggest thing you would want the viewers of the Corner Perspective to know about the folks that you engage and come across?
I would want them to know something I didn't know years ago before I started this work. Homelessness in most cases is not a choice. It's not a lifestyle choice. I think there are two main groups of people. Some people that had a rough road from a very early age, from their family perspective, and maybe their family caused some of the trauma they dealt with and they've had a hard path. Another group is people that had a normal life until a bad event happened, whether it be a job loss or an accident or a sickness or a death. I used to think people chose to be homeless, and I don't believe that anymore.
Sure. So that experience of trauma really drives not the word I want to use, but really influences the way of which you respond to folks. I mean, you mentioned about literally and figuratively being where they are. Have you seen cases where that trauma is just so obvious?
Oh yeah, every single day that we go out. It's obvious everywhere we are, and sometimes that's just someone shivering in the cold. They don't have enough clothes and they didn't feel comfortable going to or couldn't get there to where they needed to get adequate warm clothing. Or someone's just in a ball by themselves, curled up in a ball underneath a bridge, and they're terrified and don't trust anybody because nobody's ever given them a reason to trust. We see lots of crying and fear, and then once they start to open up, we build a little trust, they actually talk pretty openly and seem to want to talk about the trauma that they've been through in their lives. That they need to get it out, and they want to get help for that.
So, in a nutshell, I can imagine that the bridge over to that level of trust, I mean, it's can be pretty long for some folks, maybe short. What's a couple of keys that you have both have found in developing a level of trust?
I think probably I've come to learn that until I take the time to listen to someone and their story and what's important to them, they can't hear what I'm saying to them.
Mm-hmm.
They're not ready for services. They don't want to engage. There are plenty of places where they've been told, what to do, what not to do, and people so often don't want to hear them. But I think when we hear them, eventually they can hear us.
Sure, sure. How about you, Megan? What's your key?
Oh gosh, really trying to pay attention to little signals they might give me. I think of a woman in particular who she was terrified to even tell us not just her last name, but fully her first name. She shortened it and just very, very guarded. And I looked down one day and saw her fingernails that she had once had her nails painted pretty, but they were very dirty and had been covered. And I thought, maybe she would like some fingernail polish. And so I took some fingernail polish and handed it to her, and it seemed like that was that little tiny thing that opened her up. And then we began working with her twice a week, doing regular, consistent things, helped her with her own funds, get into a hotel and be more safe there, help her get groceries. So I think that was the key, was giving her that one thing where, this lady has some fingernail polish. It can be that small.
Sure. Well, both of you have been very, very successful in those efforts. I just know that the work that you are doing is just unbelievable, but yet effective. With that, there's somewhat of a sad note in our interview, especially with you, Megan, that you are now leaving VMC, going on to another venture, but similar in the work. And so, on behalf of the staff, on behalf of the board of directors, on behalf of the community, I want to say thank you so much for all the work that you've done. There'll be pretty big shoes to replace, won't they, Dyrl?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So
Thank you.
I want to thank you for joining with me. If you'd like to know more about our work, and in particular about the work of Street Outreach, please give us a call or contact us. You can find us on the web, or our number is 865-524-3926. We'll be glad to talk with you. So once again, thank you for joining with me on this episode of The Corner Perspective.